And we welcome you here to Carmichael Arena, the site of Carolina Gymnastics, as the North Carolina Tar Heels host their second home meet in as many weeks, as they will take on the Temple Owls here on ACC Network Extra. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm Brian Ware, along with my broadcast partner, Christina Chauvenet. And Christina, we were here last week when the Tar Heels took on NC State. It was an impressive first meet for the Tar Heels, but since they made it to regionals last year, this is a team that after the meet, it's a focus group, and they know that they should have probably done a little bit better, and I love the energy that they're going to try to press on to try to get those solid scores throughout the season.
Yeah, that's right. You know, I had an opportunity to talk to senior Madison Nettles before the meet, and she told me that they were pleased with their start. It's the strongest start, it's the highest score that UNC's had in a season opener since 2004. They usually start a little bit slower, gain momentum throughout the season. Madison said they were pleased overall, but they know that they left some tenths out there on the floor, especially on balance beam and the uneven bars. They recovered really strongly on floor, but beam's really going to be the key event tonight for the Tar Heels.
Yeah, and you also get a look at Temple there. They're warming up for the uneven bars, which will be their first event. Temple is a program that over the past couple years under head coach Umi Salim Beasley has started to slowly get better and better. And last year, it was a historic year. A majority of their meets were some of the best scores in the history of Temple Gymnastics. And in the first meet they had this year, 2 weeks ago, they almost broke it. They had a 194.875, beating New Hampshire, beating Maryland, beating Towson. They won that meet in Boston, and they're obviously looking to try to get closer to that score against the Tar Heels. That's
right, and as you mentioned, this is really this team is on the rise, and last year they finished 45th in the country with a 194.775 regional qualifying score, just missing those regionals. And Coach Beasley's done a great job with this team, and what's impressive is she says that this freshman class is their most talented class ever. So last week they had a little bit of stumble, also really struggled on the balance beam, so that's going to be a key event for them tonight as well.
Yes, they kind of fell back down to earth after their meet last week, facing against Towson again and William and Mary. Only a score of 191.575, as you mentioned. That they had 4 falls on the beam and had to take 3 low scores. So this team is a solid, 193, can get into the 194s if they can. But Carolina looking to try to keep the momentum that they had last week, had a score of 194.375. And it was, obviously, as you mentioned, it was catapulted by the performance they had on floor exercise. That was an incredible performance from the team. It's a score of 49.25, including led by Kaja Hislop, who had almost a perfect 10.
And, you mentioned Kaja Hislop. She really is the talk of NCAA gymnastics right now. She got the Gymcastic seal of approval this week from the NCAA, one of the big gymnastics podcasts. Everybody's talking about her. She's ranked 2nd in the country right now on the floor exercise, got a 10 from one judge. We're going to, we can expect to see that same thing from her tonight.
So Carolina will be on the vault, and Temple will be on the uneven bars for their first routine.
And this is also an exciting meet, expanding on last year's Be True meet. This year it has the equality theme, and 4 university groups are present here to convey their mission to the fans in attendance: the Carolina Women's Center, Carolina American Indian Center, the LGBTQ Center, and the Black Student Movement. Great to see so many fans here in support of that cause. And for the NCAA gymnastics fans that are looking for the Leo alert, Carolina's wearing the same Leo that they were wearing last year. I'm sure that was one of your favorites, Brian.
It was actually a very, they obviously have different themes. Obviously, this one, they'll have one of their remaining 2 home meets that they'll have against Brown and against Pittsburgh at the end of the year. They'll probably have the cancer awareness meet as well.
That's right. They do a great job of really engaging the community throughout their meets in the season, seeing freshman Lily Dean there getting some last-minute corrections. The athletes are just in their touch warm-up now, so they just a reminder for folks new to NCAA gymnastics, we will see 6 on each event. 5 scores count, so they get to drop the lowest score.
So judges are soon to be ready to take control of their stations as You see the assistant head coach, Marie-K Stenek, talking with the Tar Heel staff. K Stenek is a new assistant coach after associate head coach Amy Smith took the job over at Utah State. Marie Denek was a 3-time MAC Gymnast of the Year at Kent State and previously was an assistant head coach at Bowling Green University. Helped them become one of the better teams in the MAC. They finished second in the MAC conference last year.
Yeah, and I think, they have, so Marie-K Stenek and Taylor Spears, the other new assistant coach, who comes from Oklahoma, former Oklahoma, member of the Oklahoma National Championship team, an individual national champion in her own right. So I think it's really great for the team to get these really accomplished NCAA athletes coming in as assistant coaches, and I know they fit in really great with the team. And they had a really strong vault rotation as we see Michaela Robinson gearing up here.
Yes, Michaela Robinson will be first up. It's the same order the Tar Heels had last week.
And really nice vault right there. Last week she did a tucked Yurchenko full. This, it looks like she's in the tucked position, but she's working it towards a laid out Yurchenko. So the tucked position Yurchenko fulls start from a 9.9. The laid out Yurchenko start from a 9.95. She's probably not quite ready to debut that layout yet, but is working towards it.
Well, the first up will be Yasmin Eubanks for Temple, sophomore out of Mitchellville, Maryland, who competed in every meet as a freshman for the Owls.
And just a little bit of leg separation on that bail to handstand. This first routine is really key to set the pace for the rotation. She's worked through the routine nicely. Has some interesting pirouetting elements in her routine. Into that double back, nicely done. A few little momentum pauses in the routine, but that's a strong start.
She set a personal best with a 9.775 last year, and now we transition back to the vault with Alexis Allen.
And what we're really going to look for Alexis on this vault is for her to control that landing. This is a really powerful athlete. She took some bounding steps forward last week. See if she can control that a little better. Oh, and she was just probably overcorrecting for what she did last week, trying to go for that stick, and just came up a little bit short.
Yeah, she didn't really get that much power off the horse, and you could see how close she was towards her landing.
That's right, yeah, and again, I think it's probably just her trying to overcorrect again last week, way over-rotated. It had to take those bounding steps forward. That's one of the things we're going to be looking for in the landings. The gymnasts really need to just, you can't force a stick. You got to kind of let it happen, so I think she just probably opened up a little too early trying to go for that stick, but nice to see her working on those corrections from last week.
So a solid start for Temple. Eubanks with a 9.7 to start things off. And as Temple, progressed through the year last year, they were consistently getting scores around the 9.7s to low 9.8s. That's what you're mostly going to see from this Temple team. If they can execute, their routines close to perfection, they're going to get, that could creep up in more consistent scores into the 9.8s.
That's right, and when I talked to Coach Beasley before the meet, she did say that's exactly what they were focusing on in practice, just trying to pick up half a tenths places, and that is why, I comment on some of the leg separation and rhythm issues in the routines, and I am being critical, but so are the judges, and so those little tenths are really important to build that regional qualifying score.
Well, the second gymnast up for the Owls will be one of their freshmen that you mentioned, Christina. 8 freshmen in this recruiting class, and it's going to be Monica Servideo, a freshman out of Howell, New Jersey. Competed at the junior Olympic levels and level 10 as she starts her routine.
Nice Tkachev release move there. One of the big things we're going to be looking for is the major releases that gymnasts have in their routine. Again, just a little bit of a leg separation on that bail to handstand. That'll probably be a half a tenth. Maybe just a little shy on that last handstand as well. Nice double layout. Couldn't quite see if she stuck the landing on there, but got good height in the air.
It's been a very solid start for the Owls, as the Tar Heels will go to Madison Hargrave, the junior out of Westfield, Indiana.
And just a little bit short on that landing. One of the things we're going to be looking for in the laid out Yurchenkos, she was doing the layout Yurchenko position. You want to keep your hips open the entire time, have a straight line. And she just piked at the hips a little bit, didn't quite get the block off the horse, but recovered nicely, and overall good vault.
Yeah, Hargrave consistently performing on the vault last year in the few chances that she had, but now she's a solid rotation player in Coach Galvin's lineup. Coach Galvin in his 37th season here at Carolina, as the Owls will be back up on the uneven bars with Tori Edwards. Edwards, another one of the Temple freshmen.
And she got a 9.775 in their opening meet. Last week, 9.675. So looking, as you mentioned, to get back in that mid 9.7, maybe 9.8 range. She's a very powerful athlete as well. And it looks like we're just having a little bit of a scoring delay. And, you know, one of the things we're going to be looking for on the uneven bars, I mentioned handstands. Judges are looking for those gymnasts to get all the way up to a full handstand position. If they're shy, depending on how short they are, they will incur a deduction. Same thing with leg separations as they transition from low to high bar.
So Tori Edwards, the freshman out of Virginia.
And just shy on that first handstand, recovers nicely with that Tkachev release move.
She was second last year in the all-around competition at the level 10 Virginia State meet.
And she's just looked a little shy on all of her handstands. That full pirouette into the double back. Nice dismount though, really good power, got nice height and stuck that landing.
So 3 up, 3 down for both the Tar Heels and the Owls, as Carolina will go to experience with Madison Nettles, the senior transfer.
And we'll see if she can get the stick. Didn't quite get it last week. Oh, and just had that little hop back. She is such a powerful, dynamic athlete on this event. She actually was training a 1.5, told me she had to step it back for a little bit, but is thinking about maybe trying that upgrade later in the season. So we'll see if she can do that, but she's really close to sticking that Yurchenko full, and if she can stick the Yurchenko full, she's looking into getting into the high 9.8s.
Yeah, she was a very consistent gymnast for the Tar Heels last year. Confirmation of a 9.75 for the freshman Tori Edwards.
And now, go ahead.
For Temple.
And now we're looking at Daisy Todd. She's one of the sophomores. She was actually a regional selection last year for the uneven bars. Has been struggling with a little bit of, she competed all around, has been struggling with a little bit of an injury. So we're only going to see her on bars and beam this meet, but she's a real big contributor here.
Yeah, she was an incredible player for Temple in her first year. Co-Rookie of the Year out of the ECAC conference.
And nice Jaeger release move there. And she's done a good job of keeping clean form, keeping her legs together. Might just be shy on a handstand or two throughout the routine. Nice full pirouette into that double back. You didn't quite get the stick on that landing. She is recovering from an ankle injury, so I'm sure we'll see her hone that later in the season.
So now we get to the stars for the Tar Heels, and up fifth is the senior Caitlin Headland.
Oh, and nice job. That's that tucked 1.5. She previously competed a laid out 1.5, was having a little trouble with it. They moved her back to the tucked 1.5 last year. She's been really successful with it. She came really close to sticking this. not quite there. This is a really difficult vault because of that blind landing, and that's one of the vaults that starts out of a 10.0.
Yes, it is, and again, I think that's one of Carolina's better vaults so far for the team, as she's greeted by her teammates and the assistant coaches, as it will be Alexa Phillip, one of the 3 seniors on this Temple roster that will be 5th up for the Owls.
And she's also recovering from a little bit of an ankle injury, so they're excited to get her back in the lineup. She did not compete last week as well. I believe this is her season debut. And one of the challenges about competing on even bars, as we're seeing now, is there's often a scoring delay compared to vault because there's the sequence of moves that gymnasts do back-to-back on the uneven bars. Sorry,
correction. It is a scratch. They moved Alexa Phillip to 6th. It's going to be Kelly Arone, another one of the seniors. So it'll be Arone and then Phillip, 2 seniors for the Owls.
A nice pirouette into her release move. They have really nice pirouetting skills on this event. Just, again, a little bit shy of that handstand. Gearing up for her dismount here. Nice double layout, wow. She's stoked about that, and she should be. That's probably their strongest routine so far. Really got good height and distance. Check out that layout, just a teeny tiny pike down, but stuck that landing. Great job.
Yeah, Arone in the first meet set a score of 9-8 as Kaja Hislop with a flawless vault.
And, you know, we've talked about her power on the floor exercise last year. This is her first year being in the vault lineup. Her power shows on vault just like it does on floor. Beautiful form in the air. Just still struggling a little bit with, didn't quite get that stick, but you know, this is early in the season. She had a nice chest up on landing, great form in the air. And you know, gymnasts are gonna be earlier in the season struggling with some of those landings, not quite being able to stick them, because during the preseason, they do train on resi mats, a little bit softer surfaces just to protect their bodies, but really strong showing for Kaja Hislop. And I think we're gonna continue to see her. She got a 9.875 last week on her first vault, and we'll probably see maybe a little bit lower, but something in that range again now.
So there, 6th is Alexa Phillip, and she was the ECAC co-champion on the uneven bars with a score of 9.875.
And she has a big release move coming up right here. Good for her. She missed that in warm-up. Really difficult combination there to immediate connection to the low bar that gives her valuable bonus points. And a really cool dismount. Again, that was a really solid routine, just that little hop on the dismount, but I like the originality as well.
So we will have a couple of exhibition performances. First for Carolina is Lily Dean, one of the young freshmen for Coach Galvin.
And she's also doing that Yurchenko full, an improvement for, she also did an exhibition last week, an improvement from what she did last week. She had a little bit more power. She comes from the same gym actually as Kaja Hislop. We're gonna see her strongest event is floor exercise, and we'll see her there later. As you can see, she just has to pike down a little bit, and the judges do keep an eye on that because this is the most common vault they're seeing. So piking down and steps on the landing are ways that gymnasts differentiate themselves, but it was an improvement from last week, so I think they can be really happy with that.
And there you see the senior Alexa Phillip talking to the young freshman Delaney Guerin out of Fairfax, Virginia, who will participate in an exhibition performance. But I gotta be honest, Temple was really solid throughout this first rotation.
That's right, and I think, you know, they really, this first rotation is really critical for them to get off to a good start. Uneven bars, is a difficult event to start on. There's a lot of potential deductions in the routine, and they've gotten a great start so far. Just a little bit of form issues throughout the routines. They really need to focus on hitting those vertical handstands, but overall solid job. The other tricky thing about starting on the uneven bars is that it means that you end on the balance beam. So we'll get into that a little bit more later in the rotation, but the home team rotates in what we call Olympic order. That's vault, bars, beam, floor. And the away team rotates bars, vault, floor, beam. And ending on beam can be a real challenge, and they've been on the road 2 weeks in a row, so we'll see how they handle that later in the rotation.
So judges are ready to see the routine from Guerin out of Fairfax, Virginia. Was a two-time Junior Olympic national qualifier.
And she has a really nice line on this. Oh, I was just going to say she has really clean lines, hitting that handstand. Really difficult release move there, Ginger. And so now this routine won't count for Temple, but it's really important for her to finish the routine because she could be in a situation in future where this routine might need to count. And she's been doing a great job working through the rest of her routine. Really nice qualities, good toe point, that full pirouette into the double back. Good recovery from her.
So we are through one rotation as both teams will switch. Carolina will move to the uneven bars, and the Temple Owls will transition over towards the vault. Tar Heels finishing strong at the end. Some solid low 9.8s from Madison Nettles, Caitlin Headland, and Kaja Hislop. Temple very consistent on the uneven bars. We'll step aside for just a moment. You're watching Carolina Gymnastics here on ACC Network Extra. Carolina defeated Temple, Towson, and West Virginia with that stretch last year when they had 4 consecutive meets of getting a score over 195.
That's right. And, you know, one of the things to keep in mind as we move through this meet is that when we're looking at qualifying to regionals, that's done based on regional qualifying score. So for folks that are used to basketball or other sports where the record is really important, in gymnastics, the record is not as important. It's the score that the teams get. So both teams could come out of here improving their regional qualifying score. And for the first 6 weeks, for the first 5 weeks of the season, we have just the average of the meets as their rankings. Once we move past that 6th meet, we move into regional qualifying score, which is a little bit more complicated, but basically allows the teams to drop their lower performances.
So first up is Madison Renix, freshman out of Ambler, Pennsylvania.
And she does that tucked full that we saw from Michaela Robinson. Good vault. She got a good block off the horse. Just that step on the landing again, that's one of the vaults that starts out of a 9.9. That means that the maximum that she can get out from this vault is a 9.9. Just a little bit of leg separation in the air, but solid start.
And first up for the Tar Heels, as we mentioned, is Madison Nettles.
And nice first handstand. She's really worked on cleaning up her form on this event. Oh, and I think I must have jinxed her. Just struggled a little bit on that bail. Gearing up for her double layout. This was beautiful last week. Sticks it cold. And, you know, just lost her form a little bit. I think she might have actually banged her feet on the floor after her transition to the low bar, in which case she will incur a deduction. But good to see her fight back and really stick that landing.
Temple starting out with a 9.65 from Madison Renix. And now it'll be Yasmin Eubanks, the sophomore, who will be back up for Temple. She started out with a 9.7.
A nice laid out Yurchenko. So the rest of the rotation will be seeing that laid out Yurchenko full. That starts from a 9.95. Doing the Yurchenko in that laid out position makes it more difficult. So the maximum score she can get is a 9.95. She got good block in the air. Really good start for them.
Judges awaiting the scores for Madison Nettles. I believe it's going to be a 9.625, but there's one judge has it as a 9.5, the other has 9.75, and it goes back to what you said.
And so you can see when there's a big separation like that, they're having a judges conference. They're probably talking about that issue, whether she did touch her feet on the ground and what deduction they're applying to it. So this is, and as we're waiting on that, Mikhail Williams is waiting to go. That can be really pretty stressful on a gymnast. You know, you're geared up, you think you're ready to go, and you have to wait a little bit longer for that score. And this is an important routine for her. She did fall on bars last week. She's a beautiful athlete to watch on this event, so we'll see if she can recover.
And it looks like it's going to be a 9.6 for Madison Nettles.
A little uncharacteristically low from what we usually see for her. That release to the transition is pretty solid for her, but she did recover really well throughout the rest of the routine.
So it will be Michaela Williams up next for the Tar Heels, the sophomore out of Warner Robins, Georgia. Mostly competed on the uneven bars, her only event. She had a great performance early last year as a freshman.
And that's the release move she fell on last week. It was a good job there. Just a little bit of form issues in her transition to the low bar.
She was mostly in the 9.7s last year, had that 9.8 against the Gators.
And just a little too much juice on that dismount. Overall, really nice routine. Good recovery from her for last week. She caught that release move. A few form issues to clean up in the routine.
So next on vault will be the freshman Monica Servideo.
And she does that Yurchenko half. Really nicely done. Has a little too much power. Has to take that step forward. She does a good job controlling it, though.
Yeah, that's what we've seen so far in this meet today. Just trying to gauge, the power that some of these gymnasts have, as Servideo has mostly been getting solid 9.7s this season.
Those front landings, anytime we see a gymnast landing forward, she does the half. I've seen the gymnast doing the 1.5. That's a blind landing. It becomes really difficult to stick that landing.
So third up for the Tar Heels after the 9.65 by Michaela Williams. It'll be the senior out of Columbus, Indiana, Morgan Lane, the EAGL Gymnast of the Year last year. She was #1 in all around and she was just cracking the top 20 in all of college gymnastics.
And she really is an NCAA fan favorite. She is so clean on this event. She actually doesn't, most of the routines we see on bars start from a 10.0. Hers doesn't because she doesn't have a major release move, and it starts from a 9.9. But for Morgan, she can get away with that because she's so clean on this event. Look at the toe point. It is so exquisite. It really is beautiful to watch. And she has no built-in deductions in this routine. Dismount, the one place she struggled last week, did not stick it. Well, there you go. So we're back to business as usual for Morgan Lane.
Yes, it is.
And she really is. She's a machine. She usually competes all around. She told me she's not quite ready to vault. We probably will see her on vault later in the season, but good to see she's coming out and getting that strong bar score for UNC.
So next up for Temple is Jaylene Everett, sophomore out of Harleysville, Pennsylvania, and it's a good vault after what Servideo did just a moment ago.
And yeah, that was another strong vault. She had a good block off the table as we take a look on this replay. Getting that block is really important to get the full rotation. Has to pike down just a little bit, but she lands with her chest up, which is another big thing that the judges are looking for, to see that the gymnast has completed their flip and twist before they land.
Yeah, Jaylene Everett in the first meet of the year set a personal best 9.825. And she was recently named the Specialist of the Week last week with the meet at Towson, as she set a career best in the floor exercise, which we will see later on as we get to ready for Caitlin Headland, who is fourth up for the Tar Heels.
And she's another beautiful athlete to watch on this event. One thing that we're just going to keep an eye on, she's been struggling with lately, is a little bit of a leg separation on her bail to handstand. So we'll see that when she transitions from the high bar to the low bar. Really on top of that handstand. And here's where she struggled last week. Just still a little bit of leg separation, but she has really good rhythm throughout this routine. And really the highlight is the dismount. She takes this dismount so high. Full twisting double back. Just a tiny, tiny hop on that dismount, but really solid performance.
Carolina starting to build momentum here on the uneven bars after Lane and Headland. Lane with that 9.775, as it will be Tori Edwards.
A nice vault. She took that step back. I think she probably could have honed that landing just a little bit more, but you can tell she's a really powerful athlete. Gets good height. We'll take another look here. And yet just pikes down a little too much, has to take that big step back.
So fifth up for the Tar Heels will be the sophomore out of Oregon, Grace Donahue. Donahue mostly competing on bars and beam last year. Did have a couple falls last year, but was one of the stronger performers for the Tar Heels on the beam last week against the Wolfpack with a 9.775.
And she's a really solid athlete on this event. Last week was the debut of her new bar routine. They reworked her bar routine, and I think it looked really great on her. She's got some great qualities on this event. Like Morgan Lane, she's got great toe point. We're gonna see that right off the bat. And this is a new release move for her right here. Really well done. And so we'll see if she can hit that handstand just a little shy.
She set a career high of 9.825 last year as she prepares for her dismount. The double layout, small hop, but it's a solid continuation after what Lane and Headland did.
Yeah, and it's good to see that from her. She had a little bit, last week she had a little bit of a struggle on her dismount, tucked her knees a little bit. So good to see her recover from that.
Sixth performer for the Owls on the vault is Sahara Gibson.
And really great height on that. I was just gonna say we're in for a treat because she's got a lot of power. Good to see her get that height. Wasn't probably quite prepared for that landing. Let's take another look here. Yeah, gets nice height. She has a little chest down, so she'll incur a deduction for that, but really solid vault rotation.
Yeah, Gibson, sophomore out of Oakland, New Jersey.
And you know, we talk about this Temple team. They are a really young team. So out of the 24 routines that we're going to see tonight, only 5 of them are performed by juniors or seniors. So this team has a lot of room to grow. They really are on pace to have another really solid score.
And the 6th performer will be Rain Gordon, sophomore out of California.
And she was limited by injury last year. We didn't see a lot of her in the lineup. She's got really nice release move right here. And again, just a little shy. All of the UNC gymnasts have struggled a little bit on that bail to handstand. And each time a gymnast is short on a handstand, they'll incur a deduction. Good double layout dismount, just that step on the landing, but solid performance.
So after a slow start for the Tar Heels on the uneven bars, they got some solid scores from the back end of their rotation as we have a couple of exhibition performances. And here is one for Temple. It is the junior out of Hershey, Pennsylvania, Morgan Friday.
Just a little bit short. She has her chest down on the landing, so again, that'll incur deduction. For these routines, for the exhibition routines, they do not count towards a team score. It's an opportunity for the coaches to put somebody who maybe isn't quite ready for the lineup in, get their routine out there and get scored. Yeah, just doesn't quite get the block she needed on that vault. And we're gonna see Alexis Allen here on the uneven bars. She didn't see very much action on bars last year. She's been training it in the preseason, and she has got a really big double layout dismount as well that we'll see.
Yeah, Alexis Allen obviously wanting to shake off the cobwebs after performing on the vault just a moment ago.
A nice first handstand. Just struggled just a little bit to get that Tkachev around, but she saved it. And she's doing a really good job on her handstands. Almost went over on her last, oh, and again there, she's really fighting for those handstands. And here's that double layout dismount. Oh, just a little bit short. Has to do that lunge forward, but you know, she's getting that routine out there. Like I said, didn't see much action last year on the uneven bars. So I think that it's a really good first showing for her, and she's got some great qualities on there. I'm really impressed with how aggressive she was with her handstands throughout that routine.
So we are through 2 rotations here at Carmichael Arena. After the first rotation, Carolina had 49 on the vault, and Temple had 48.650 on the uneven bars. We'll try to get you some of the scores as we transition to floor exercise and the balance beam next on ACC Network Extra.
The balance beam is 16 feet long, 4 feet above the ground, and measures only 4 inches wide. It requires you to take tumbling skills that you would normally do on the floor and do it on the only 4-inch wide beam. I really enjoy beam because it takes a lot of concentration, but there's no better feeling than when you get off the beam without having wobbles and stick the dismount. On beam, the judges are looking for powerful tumbling, good rhythm, full splits in your leaps and jumps, and graceful movements.
Back here at Carmichael Arena, and as you see, the North Carolina Tar Heels and the Temple Owls in a tightly contested match. Carolina with 97.6 after 2 rotations. Temple solid on the vault with a score of 48.625. They're at 97.275. So it's, as we mentioned, with the balance beam coming up, it's going to be very important for both teams to try to get those solid routines and not build any kind of momentum that would cause some anxiety amongst the gymnasts.
That's right, and I think, you know, both teams can be happy with where they are right now. Both teams are tracking on sort of that 194 to 195 pace. I mentioned 195 because we're going to see 195 is usually around where the cutoff for regionals is, and maybe even a little bit above that. So that's a really important number to keep in mind. Both teams can improve their regional qualifying score if they improve on what they did last week. So, you know, UNC got off to a really great start on vault, had a 49.0 on vault. Struggled a little bit with form issues on the uneven bars, so an uncharacteristic mistake from Madison Nettles, but they rebounded nicely, 48.6 there. And Temple got off to a really good start on the uneven bars, 48.6, and also managed to maintain that momentum. As we take a look here, Madison Nettles, and she nods to herself. She's like, all right, I got that. Okay, she's, you know, she struggled a little bit in the early part of the rotation, but had some strong performances later in there. As we take a look at Michaela Williams here, nice double layout there, just had that step forward, but good performance. And then the always solid Morgan Lane. I mean, this really is textbook gymnastics right there. Oh, she had a tiny foot movement. I doubt that the judges caught that, but she's beautiful to watch as always. And then this really caps off the rotation. Full twisting, double back, lots of height, lots of distance. Again, just that tiny, tiny hop, probably a half attempt deduction from Caitlin Hedlund there.
Yeah, and Grace Donahue was the best of the bunch for the Tar Heels with a 9.8.
Yeah, and it was a great performance from her. Just a few tiny form issues throughout her routine. As we look at Rain's dismount here, again, just a little shy. The Tar Heels had a few dismounts where they were a little short on rotation, had to take those steps forward, so that's where they incur the deductions. But overall, I think they did a really good job. And, you know, now the pressure's on the Tar Heels because they're going to beam. And so this is going to be a really critical event for them to continue that momentum.
Yeah, the Tar Heels, part of the EAGL, the East Atlantic Gymnastics League. In terms of the preseason, they were picked to finish 5th behind the likes of the defending conference champion, George Washington. Yeah, they also have New Hampshire, NC State, Pitt, who they'll see later in the season. They'll have a couple meets with Towson. Meet with Towson next week. And as we look at some of the rankings, obviously the first couple weeks is where mostly scoring averages hold before, the regional qualifying scores. A lot of the EAGL teams are stacked up against each other. George Washington currently 27th. North Carolina after that first meet is 31st. You got NC State after 2 meets at 33rd, and then Towson right behind at 34th. So it may come to, obviously a couple of tenths here, a couple tenths there. And if the EAGL, obviously they got I believe they had 3 bids to the regionals. We could possibly see more as the Tar Heels are starting out on beam, and a great start on the aerial element from Caitlin Hedlund.
And, it was good to see there. She was just a little shy on rotation on that layout step out, but she made that correction really easily. A nice aerial to beat jump there. What we're going to be looking for on balance beam is for gymnasts to hit 180-degree splits in their leaps. Each gymnast, like she did right there, each gymnast has to do at least one leap where she hits 180 degrees. And they also need an acrobatic series, like we saw her back handspring layout step out. That attitude turn is so beautiful. She did classical ballet alongside gymnastics growing up, and it really shows on this event through her turns and her leaps. And she's getting ready for her 1.5. We'll see if she can stick that dismount, just the tiniest of hops, but good routine for Caitlin Hedlund.
Tar Heels on the front foot. After Hedlund's performance, she had a 9.725 last week against the Wolfpack. And first up for the Owls is the freshman Madison Renix.
And she had a 9.625 last week. Nice opening double back there.
And then usually with the floor exercise performances is the chance to display your personality and your choreography, as Renix is a two-time junior Olympic qualifier, was the state champion in floor exercise.
Nice middle pass there.
Now, the way this Temple team has performed throughout the season, we mentioned Daisy Todd last year competed in several meets at all-around. This is mostly a committee type way where a couple of gymnasts will do 2 or 3 events.
That's right. And nice opening routine there. She had a lot of twisting in that routine. Really ends with that beautiful Rudy and really good endurance through that floor routine. That's going to be something we're going to be looking for at the end of the floor routine. Gymnasts are tired, so sometimes they might struggle on their last pass. No problem there, though. Solid start for Madison Rennick.
Looks like it was a 9.725 for Caitlin Headland, starting things off for the Tar Heels on the balance beam. That's a great start for Lily Dean, the freshman.
That's right, and has a lot of power and really got a lot of height on that switch side there. We've seen a little bit of lineup changes from last week from Carolina.
Yes, Dean competing for the first time as a Tar Heel, and as you saw that layout step out.
And it's really too bad to see she was so aggressive on that punch front. But again, this is one of the positions in the lineup where you don't know what's coming after you, so it's very important to fight through. She's got great extension on those leaps there.
Looking right at assistant coach Taylor Spears, who we mentioned was an NCAA champion on beam. Great 1.5 twists on the dismount.
Good dismount, and yeah, it doesn't hurt when your beam coach is a former national champion on beam. Unfortunate to see the fall from her, but you know, it's good for her to get that routine out there, and she's got a lot of potential on that event.
So now we're seeing another freshman for Temple from Perry Hall, Maryland, Jordan Oster.
Nice double back to start.
Oster competed last week for Towson here on floor exercise. Getting a score of 9.65. She was third in the all-around at the state meet as a senior.
And really nice routine. She's one of the athletes Coach Beasley talked to me about before the meet. She's recovering from a fractured rib, and she actually has more difficult tumbling to add at the beginning of her routine. Not quite ready to do that, but that was a great routine, and she's got some upgrades in the tank, so very important athlete to keep your eye on in the future.
So up next for the Tar Heels, who will have to ride the ship, is the junior Jamie DeChico, who specializes on the balance beam.
And also did not compete last week. No, I was just thinking we'll kind of get a good sense of how she's doing from that opening back handspring layout step out. Really fought for that. And it's exciting to see her in the lineup. She hasn't seen much action, but she's such a hard worker and really has beautiful abilities on this event. Just a little doubt there, I think, creeped in on that full turn. And she's gearing up here. Oh, and I was just gonna say she does have a really beautiful extension in her split leaps. She's gonna redo it there into that beat jump. Nicely done.
So as they had to last week, Carolina will have to have one of their falls as a score.
She's got a gainer pike here for her dismount. Nice recovery, good stick. And you know, that was a very difficult dance element that she fell on. Sometimes the acrobatic elements look more complicated, but the dance elements can be just as complicated. Too bad to see her come off there. That will be a point deduction. So the next routine for the Tar Heels will be really important.
Third up for the Owls is the sophomore Yasmin Eubanks. Good double back to start. Eubanks had one of her better scores at the start of the year, 9.775.
Nice Rudy as the middle pass there.
As we said, she's been a very solid rotation person for Temple, competing in every meet as a freshman. And she's looking for a strong finish here.
And wow, good for her. She was so close to going out of bounds on that final pass, but just held on to it. Really solid start here.
And coming up next for the Tar Heels will be Morgan Lane. Morgan had a 9.775 on the uneven bars.
And you know, with that kind of score, it seems strange to say it was uncharacteristically low, but it was a low score for Morgan. She had a little problem on this mount last week. Look at this beautiful pressed handstand into these layout step outs. There's no words to describe how beautiful that mount is.
And Morgan was actually one of the best gymnasts in the conference on balance beam last year. That led her to that Gymnast of the Year honors.
And you know, it's the details in her routine. She finishes that full turn on releve, has such great extension through all of her elements, and had a really great mount. We'll see if she can stick her 1.5 dismount.
Great recovery for the Tar Heels.
Wow. Well, you know, Morgan is so beautiful to watch on that event. Perfect athlete to go after a fall because she's so solid on that event. And Temple, meanwhile, has had 3 really good routines so far.
Yeah, they've all been around the same. Madison Renix and Jordan Oster with 9.7s. 9.625 for Yasmin Edwards. as Yasmin Eubanks as Tori Edwards is 4th up for the Owls.
And watching her in warm-ups, she is a powerhouse. We're gonna see that right off the top here. Punch front double full. That's one of those E-rated passes.
Especially in terms of getting the twist element in on the punch.
Yeah, she's got so much power.
And Tori Edwards, her routine has been very strong this year for the young freshman. 9.825 and 9.8 in her 2 previous meets.
Wow, and double pike as a middle pass, that's a challenging pass to do as your middle pass. Wow. And just great control on her landings. You know, she had the difficulty. She started with that E pass that I know Coach Beasley says more of their athletes have in the works. She started with that E pass, great control on all of her landings. That was their strongest routine so far.
So Morgan Lane got the Tar Heels back on track with that routine at a 9.85 as Alexis Allen is up for Carolina.
And we'll see how she can recover. She was one of the athletes that had a fall last week. Gearing up for her series here, back handspring layout, step out. Really solid there. And that's the element she fell on last week. She was just a little hesitant last week. None of that this week. She looks really confident.
Especially coming off of what she did on the vault.
And wow, great hit routine for Alexis Allen. She's stoked about that. She's one of those athletes that she's really beautiful to watch. She's got excellent qualities. Just struggled a little bit, I think, last week. First meet jitters, had that fall, but great to see her recover.
And we mentioned how good Tori Edwards' routine was, a 9.825. She tied her season high as we get ready for Jaylene Everett, the sophomore out of Harleysville, Pennsylvania. We said she set a personal best with a 9.825 last week in the tri-meet against Towson and William and Mary. That was how she was named the ECAC Specialist of the Week.
So we'll see if she can build on that 9.825. Nice opening pass there. Gymnasts are allowed to have that extra mat on the floor exercise. Just helps to protect their ankles a little bit. And really high double pike.
Everett contributed very well for the Owls on the vault. Just a moment ago, had one of the better scores on the team. And we can see how strong her power is here on floor exercise as she gets set for her final pass.
Nice, Rudy. Just a little foot adjustment. Didn't really look like she needed it. Another really solid routine, maybe just a little bit shy in some of the splits and some of her leaps, and the judges are looking for that as well on both floor and beam. They're looking for the acrobatic as well as the dance elements. But overall, a really good start. I'm really impressed with how Temple has had such solid passes throughout this rotation. As we look at Kaja Hislop here, doing her series. That's an upgrade from last season, just a little misstep on that.
At least it will only be a minor deduction, as Hislop was named the Rookie of the Year, being the best gymnast both on the beam and on floor exercise. And she helped finish things well for the Tar Heels on the vault earlier, as the Tar Heels got that 49 on the first apparatus.
And she's another one of those gymnasts that has such great extension. She really hits that 180-degree split. Struggled on this dismount last week. Taylor Spears told me she's going back to her old dismount, had a new dismount, wasn't quite confident in it, so she's going to do that 1.5. Wow.
Stuck landing.
Well, I'd say that's a pretty good coaching decision, wouldn't you say?
Yes, there's Coach Spears.
And, oh, those are the stick glasses, Brian. I don't know if you know about the stick glasses, but that's what Taylor Spears told me. They're starting to do that. LSU had a stick crown at their meet last week.
The prop is everything after what happened earlier in college football with Miami with the turnover chain.
Exactly.
Everyone has their thing.
Exactly. It's the Leos and it's the stick glasses. Those are the important things.
So sixth up is the senior, Sahara Gibson.
Yeah, check out this first pass. Really cool. Rarely see that combination. Oh, just a little short on that. But I like the risk she takes. Good double back, just a little foot adjustment, so that will incur a minor deduction.
Gibson, as we said, one of three seniors, along with Kelly Arone and Alexa Phillip.
Really solid landing on that last pass, probably her best pass. She struggled a little bit on that opening pass, recovered nicely, and had a really great performance quality. And I would say that across the board with Temple, they've had really good performances, good dance, and really good engagement with the crowd. Which, by the way, there's a good Temple contingent here tonight.
Yes, there is, as we have Rain Gordon in an exhibition performance. She was in the rotation last week against NC State, and as we mentioned, bit of a rotation turnover. And obviously, this is an exhibition score, but she's competing for her spot.
That's right. One of the things you have to remember is these athletes, they are an internal competition for those lineup spots. So it's an opportunity for her to, she was a little hesitant on this event last week, and she made a cleaner connection there. A lot on balance beam is about making connection. That's how these gymnasts build their start value. So she was a little hesitant last week on some skills, doing a better job working through, and I love that double stag. It's really nice to see her add something different.
She had a 9.5.
And didn't have a fall last week, but just a little shy on connections, lots of bobbles, and much better performance from her this week.
As we said, it's an exhibition routine, but we did say that Carolina did have to take a fall, but the way that the back end of the rotation, it was flawless for the Tar Heels. 9.85 for Morgan Lane, 9.9 for Alexis Allen, and a 9.85 for Kaja Hislop.
Yeah, and Alexis Allen, new career high for her. Just unbelievable job there.
So we have one exhibition for Temple.
Oh, and just shy on that double pike.
the young freshman Delaney Guerin.
I think she didn't get enough power out of her back handspring, just didn't have the rotation to get that double pike around. Nice recovery there. A nice 1.5 to front pike to finish. Just struggled on that opening pass, but good to see her fight through that. Had really excellent middle passes, so a lot of potential there for her on floor.
Now we move back over to the beam. A second exhibition performance from the freshman out of Las Vegas, Nevada, Riley Dewhurst.
And she was also in exhibition last week. She did have a fall on her series, so we'll see if she can recover here. I think she's gearing up for it now.
And the judges do score these exhibition performances. We saw that Rain Gordon, who competed just a moment ago, 9.6.
And so that's a good improvement, 1/10 above what she did last week.
So as we said, fighting for a spot is what's important.
And you know, that internal competition is really important. And one of the things, actually, these two teams tonight have similar philosophies. Coach Beasley and Coach Galvin both have their teams compete for spots. They put together hit percentages, so the gymnasts know where they stand. Oh, too bad with that aerial. She got through the part where she'd fallen on her back handspring layout step out last week, just didn't have quite the rotation around. And good recovery. And you know, I think she was just a little hesitant. The challenge with balance beam is you have to be aggressive to be able to get the rotation of your elements around. Didn't quite do that, but she finished strong. She gets the stick glasses too, because she stuck her dismount.
So there you get a look at Carolina. They do have to incur one of the falls. They have a third round rotation of 48.550 on the beam. And Temple, as we said, model of consistency, staying around that 48 level. They had 48.65 on the uneven bars, 48.625 on the vault, 48.675 on the floor.
Yeah, and I think they can be really happy with this. I mean, two very different rotations. We had Carolina have some falls in the middle and then recover with some really stellar performances. Temple had good performances throughout, a little bit of struggles here and there on some landings that they can clean up throughout the season, but really high performance quality. And I know that Coach Beasley is working on getting some of those upgrades in. So when we see those upgrades in their routines, we're probably going to see the floor score go up as well.
So we'll step aside for one more rotation. Carolina will be moving to the floor, and Temple will be moving to the balance beam here on ACC Network Extra.
Our exercise is one of my favorite events. It's at the very end. The gymnast gets to perform in front of the crowd and get them involved. On this event, each gymnast picks out their own floor music and has their own dance style to it. They have explosive tumbling. The gymnast balances the difficulty of their tumbling with the artistry of their dance, and the judges are looking for great presentation, great execution, rotation. Specific deductions are taken when the gymnast steps out of balance or is out of sync with their music.
The Carolina Gymnastics program will be hosting summer camps on the UNC campus. Overnight Camp 1 will be July 9th through July 12th. Overnight Camp 2 will be July 13th through July 16th. The day camp will take place on July 17th through July 19th. For more information about the camps, please visit www.tarhillgymnasticscamps.com. Coaches, the 4-minute touch period will now begin.
We are back here at Carmichael Arena, an excellent crowd here as the North Carolina Tar Heels will go to their bread and butter, the floor exercise, and Temple will move to the balance beam, the 4th rotation here on ACC Network Extra. And Christina, this match, this dual meet is as close as it can be. After 3 rotations, Carolina with a team score of 146.150. Temple with a score of 145.950. A difference of 0.2 separates the two schools.
That's right. It's going to be a really interesting rotation. You know, Carolina, as you say, going to one of their hallmark events. They're ending on floor in front of their home crowd. And so it's going to be an interesting challenge for Temple because, as we mentioned, they struggled on the uneven bars, on the balance beam last week, had 4 falls. So we'll see how and it's also, as we mentioned, difficult ending on balance beam. You go from floor exercise, you got a lot of momentum, a lot of energy, and you have to harness that energy for balance beam. But they've had a really impressive performance so far. So I'm excited to see how they perform on the balance beam. Watching them in warm-ups earlier, they have some big skills that we'll see throughout their rotation. So it's really just a matter of it's the mental game at this point.
And here you get a look at some of the highlights from the Tar Heels on the beam. We said they did have to take a fall, both from Lily Dean and Jamie DeChico, but Morgan Lane, Alexis Allen, and Kaja Hislop finished incredibly strong for the Tar Heels. Lane with an excellent routine with a 9.85. And coming up next, which was 5th, was Alexis Allen setting a personal best 9.9.
And I have to say, this routine was the highlight of the rotation for me. She did such a great job coming after some falls, and she just really showcased what she's capable of on this event. So great to see her go out, get a 9.9. And although I'm sure they're disappointed with their falls, you see Kaja Hislop right here. Look at that dismount. Just no problem whatsoever. She is really cat-like with her landings, and we're going to see that on the floor exercise as well.
Yes, it's going to be the same rotation that the Tar Heels had last week. The same 6 gymnasts, starting out with the senior Lauren Weissel, then followed by Michaela Robinson, Lily Dean, Madison Nettles, Morgan Lane, and Kaja Hislop. Temple will be setting up Jordan Oster first up for the Owls. She had a solid performance on floor exercise with a 9.7. We get to see Daisy Todd again on balance beam after her performance on the uneven bars.
And she's one of those athletes coming back from injury, probably will be working all 4 events later in the season, but not quite ready yet. So we'll see. She's a beautiful gymnast to watch on beam.
And again, as we said, this is the records don't matter. It's more of how well can you perform in terms of your team scores. That'll be the difference. And obviously, we said that Temple is slowly building into a solid gymnastics program. Was mostly in the 40s in terms of the RQS rankings. They finished 5th in the ECAC Conference Championship.
And, I really have to attribute a lot of their success over the past few years to Coach Beasley. She's really overseen a rapid rise in this program, and I appreciate that they're not shy about their goals either. They want to qualify for regionals, and it's tight competition when you look from sort of the mid-20s to the mid-40s in NCAA gymnastics, really tight across the board. So this is an important meet also for Temple, because when you doing your RQS, you have to count at least 3 away scores. So it's really important for them to get a good away score under their belt. Hopefully they can drop their 191 that they got last week and build on their season opener, and they're on pace to do so.
So both coaches getting a chance to talk to their respective teams. As we said, the difference between the two squads, only 0.2 of a point.
And, you know, we talk about records don't matter, and that's true. However, I can guarantee you that both of those teams still want to come out with a win.
The Temple Owls will actually be, after 3 meets away, they will be home next week. As we said, the freshman Jordan Oster starting out for the Owls.
And she's one of the gymnasts. She got 9.725 both her first 2 performances. So really solid on this event. And good sign, you know, she had her back heel was a little bit off on that, but she made that correction.
We said the freshman out of Perry Hall, Maryland.
Maybe just shy of that split in her leap. It looks like she might have been a little under-rotated on that aerial, but she covered it up nicely. Gearing up for her dismount here. Nice duck gainer full. Really strong start for Temple.
As we said, so far with the Eagles, they have basically been that 48.65 average through 3 rotations, as Lauren Weissel is first up for the Tar Heels here on floor exercise, and she has basically competed on floor the last few years, having a great finish at the end of last year, starting with a double back. She set a personal best, 9.825, last week against the Wolfpack.
And really clean 1.5 to that front layout.
As we said, with the floor exercise, a chance to show your personality in your choreography. And Carolina, as we mentioned, had one of the best floor scores they've had in quite some time, a 49.25 as a team.
And, you know, when I talked to Madison Nettles about that, she said, you know, that's just what we're capable of. We're intending to do that same thing this week. 1.5 twist. You know, she started her season off with a bang. Last week, got her career high 9.825. We'll probably see something in that similar range. Really strong start for Carolina.
And now second up will be the sophomore Daisy Todd from San Jose, California. We said was the ECAC Co-Rookie of the Year.
Nice. I really like her combination front toss to back tuck. We really don't see that in collegiate gymnastics. Oh, too bad, just a little hesitation on that full turn, but she hasn't competed beam the last few weeks, again, recovering from an ankle injury. So good to see her back in the lineup.
We said she's battling through injury. She's only competing on 2 events today, but she did set a personal best as a freshman with a score of just over 39 in the all-around, and she keeps the train rolling for Temple.
And that's a great first performance of the season for her. Just that uncharacteristic bobble on that full turn. Not a whole lot else to take from that routine. Maybe a little bit of an angle in a split leap, but really strong performance for her. So they're getting off to a great start in this rotation. Things are staying interesting between Temple and UNC right now.
And up next will be Michaela Robinson, who set a personal best, leading Carolina off on the vault with that 9.8. And I know, we talked about how Carolina is ranked currently 31st, but we said after their floor exercise performance last week against NC State, that score is currently the 6th best in the country.
That's right. They really they caught a lot of people's attention, their floor rotation. And it's just stacked top to bottom. Really great control on that middle pass. She struggled with that a little bit last week.
And that's showing the splits in front of the Tar Heel crowd. She set the score of 9.775 last week, just short of her personal best. Excellent double back.
And great performance for her. Again, we're talking about those final passes, making sure the athletes have their chest up on landing. She ticked all those boxes. And if you're thinking she might look familiar, she also has a sister who competes at UC Berkeley. So 2 NCAA Division I gymnasts in the family, and her sister's equally powerful on floor exercise.
Now third up for Temple is Delaney Guerin, who has done a couple exhibition performances so far today, but she did compete. She has competed the last 2 weeks. The young freshman here on the beam.
And just a little shy on that back handspring layout step out. We talked about being aggressive. Sometimes when you're a little tentative, you don't get enough rotation, and I think that's what happened there, but she fought through it and minimized the deduction.
Oh my goodness, we just saw the score. Michaela Robinson with a personal best 9.9 as Delaney Guerin finishes off strongly for the Owls.
And a really nice dismount there, tucked full. Temple's having a great beam rotation. I think they can be really proud of what they've done so far. And great to see that new career high on floor exercise. So these teams are really one-upping each other in this last rotation.
Third up for Carolina is Lily Dean, the freshman out of Massachusetts, who we said trained at the same complex as Kaja Hislop.
And she's got big power on this first pass, front through to a double back. No problem.
Dean had a 9.825 against NC State last week.
Great extension through those leaps. Again, judges looking for that 180-degree split on those leaps, and for them to finish the rotation if they're doing it, a turning element.
Strong double pike to finish it out.
And really good performance. She had a little bit of extra power on that last double pike. She may incur a small deduction for that. Depends on whether the judges think she took a controlled lunge out of it or whether she took a larger step. But it'll be a minor deduction, and again, really another really great routine.
So now fourth up for the Owls is Sahara Gibson, one of the senior captains. After Delaney Guerin getting a 9-7.
And I really like that combination. A lot of the Temple gymnasts doing that front toss, which is pretty unusual in NCAA gymnastics. And clean connection there. Might have just been a little shy on one of her splits. Oh, and you know, she was fighting really hard for that stick. Probably could have taken a small step forward and avoided a larger deduction, but again, really clean routine for her. And really nice front toss in the middle of that routine.
So Gibson and the Owls have been very consistent so far on the beam, but so far Carolina has been extraordinarily good here on floor exercise. As Madison Nettles is up next, the senior who transferred last year and made an immediate impact for Carolina. She set a career high last year of a 9.85 in the meet at Pauley Pavilion at UCLA.
And there's that whipped double full. That's her new upgraded pass. Really, she's really been working on her extension in her leaps, and it shows.
Great support from her teammates.
And
with the stag finish and the kiss in front of the judges.
The kiss to the judge never hurts, right? I think she can be really happy with that routine. You know, she has a double stag leap at the jump at the end of her last pass. She had a little bit of an arm circle. Not sure if the judges will catch that or not, but otherwise really solid throughout the routine.
So fifth up for Temple will be the first time we see Whitney King, a sophomore out of Burke, Virginia.
And you know, they've had really solid starts so far. Delaney Guerin with that 9.7, Jordan Oster with a 9.725, and Daisy Todd 9.65. So they are really improving on their performance from last week. It looks like just a little judging delay here.
As Whitney King has mostly competed on beam here at Temple. She set a personal best of 9.775 last year, and then surpassed it in the meet up in Boston with a 9.8.
And I love her mount. She does something different.
And the one thing we've said about Temple is not only have they been consistent, but they have shown a lot of variety.
That's right. And they've really done a great job in this rotation so far. And I like the risk she takes there. Doing that sheep jump, you lose sight of the beam, and that's really difficult. Rock solid series. This has been a beautiful routine so far. And again, just taking a lot of risk does that. Anytime you do a leap where you throw your head back, you lose sight of the beam. It's very risky. Does that ring leap there. And gearing up for her gainer, dismount. Tiny hop, but really solid routine. Shows a lot of variety in that routine. And you know, I think that they can be really proud of their performance. Sometimes when you have a bad performance on an event, it can kind of haunt you. We saw that happen a little bit to UNC for a few meets last season on balance beam. They've recovered really well.
So now 5th up for Carolina is Morgan Lane. And she had such an impressive performance on the balance beam.
Oh, wow, and really uncharacteristic. I don't think I've ever seen her overpower that first pass there.
And that will be a 10th deduction.
And that's a 10th deduction in addition to a 10th mandatory deduction and then additional for whatever steps she took out of it. Nice last pass there. You know, again, she really is typically very solid on a landing of that double pike. Just overcooked it slightly, but she recovered really well through the rest of the routine.
So up 6th for Temple on the balance beam is the junior out of Lidditz, Pennsylvania, Bree Wixkowski. And Wixkowski mostly competed on bars and beam last year, and last year set the first ever 9.925.
Nice back handspring layout step out to open. And this routine is really just gravy. So they've already had solid routines through their first 5 routines. So we'll see if she can build on that score.
Just able to stay up, even though it will be a minor deduction. At least it's not that half, and so it would obviously be the one that Temple would drop.
That's right.
As we've said so far throughout this meet, Temple has been the model of consistency, averaging 48.650 in their first 3 rotations.
And nice recovery there, you know, just a few bobbles throughout the routine, but they can be so happy. That's going to really blow their beam score from last week out of the water.
Yes, as we said, they had 4 falls, had to take 3 of them in their score. And the 6th performer for Carolina is Kaja Hislop, who had a career best here on floor exercise with the score of 9.95.
And yeah, she was so dynamic last week, and we can expect the same power from her. Watch her extension in her leaps. It's her power in her tumbling, but also she has beautiful leaps throughout the routine. And she's actually capable of more difficulty. We're going to see, I believe we're going to see her, front layout to 1.5. She's capable of doing a double front there, not quite adding that difficulty in yet. When she does, the front layout 1.5 will become her middle pass.
As we said, it was a career day for Hislop. She was the best gymnast on floor exercise in the EAGL.
And this double back is taken so high, so precise. Oh, and too bad. You know, I was going to say she didn't quite stick it like she did last week. And sometimes I think, you know, that the mat that is there, the extra mat that's there for protection, sometimes it can be difficult when you're lunging out of it. It looks like she just kind of tripped on it a little bit, but beautiful athlete to watch on that event.
So we will have one exhibition performance on the beam for Temple and 2 for the Tar Heels on floor exercise. And here is Tori Edwards for the Owls.
Looks like she's gearing up for her. She has a triple series, 2 back handsprings, 2 that layout step out. Oh, and just hangs on to it. Good fight there. And the unofficial scores from this rotation for Temple, 48.325. That is their last week. They were at 46.65. So huge improvement for them.
And that will get them close to that 194 range.
Nice dismount. And she fought through that adversity on her series. Really good to see her doing that. And again, I think they can be so proud of how they worked through this balance beam rotation, really solid throughout.
So now we have 2 exhibition performances. One is from the junior out of Westfield, Indiana, Madison Hargrave, who had a solid score for the Tar Heels on vault.
And this is the event that Coach Galvin told me the Tar Heels have the most depth on. So it makes sense we're seeing 2 exhibition routines. Again, just playing with lineups, seeing who's ready from week to week. And nice opening pass there, really difficult punch double full. Nice double pike there.
As we mentioned, Hargrave only competed in a few meets last year due to injury. But with the depth on floor exercise and through some of the performances that we've seen, it's definitely going to be a challenge to get into the rotation, but it's definitely a solid performance from the junior Hargrave.
Yeah, and it was really good to see her do her first pass as an E-rated pass, the most difficult classification of passes in NCAA gymnastics. And again, I think that competition is really good for the athletes because it keeps them on their toes. They know that they have to be performing at their best, and if there is something that happens to another athlete later in the season, an unforeseen injury, then these athletes they're ready to step in.
And the final exhibition performance is from the sophomore out of Park City, Utah, Jamie Antonori, who, as a freshman, started out really strong for the Tar Heels on floor exercise. As Hargrave in that exhibition performance, a 9.825, which again is something, as you see Coach Galvin and Caitlin Headland taping down an extra mat. It's going to give Coach Galvin that extra consideration in terms of how to make the rotation that much better. Obviously, here on floor exercise, it wasn't as lights out as it was against NC State, but it was very, very strong.
That's right, and it also gives him an opportunity to rest some athletes from week to week. It is a long season.
Solid double pike to start.
And yet just a little deep on that landing, but she pulled it around nicely, got her chest up quickly.
Excellent middle pass. Showing solid energy through that tumble. An excellent double back to finish it off.
And great to see that from her. Coach Galvin says she's one of the hardest workers in the gym, and is really excited to get this opportunity. She grew up in Utah. She went to some University of Utah gymnastics meets growing up, so she knows what that collegiate atmosphere is like. Saw a little bit of action on floor exercise last year, but good to see her doing an exhibition here.
So there you see the scores of the fourth rotation. North Carolina with a score of 49.050, highlighted by Michaela Robinson's personal best of a 9.9.
And this really speaks to the depth of the UNC team. You know, we saw some missteps in the lineup with both Morgan Lane and Kaja Hislop going out of bounds, which they don't really do, and they can still hit a 49. So, you know, this is a really strong event for them. As we look at the first rotation, again, UNC improved on their score from last week with a 49, and Temple also 48.65, got off to a good start on bars, beating their mark last week of 48.125.
And Carolina getting a score of 48.6 on the uneven bars. Temple at 48.625. We mentioned on the beam they did have to take a fall, but that back end of Morgan Lane, Alexis Allen, and Kaja Hislop finishing things off strongly for Carolina.
Yeah, and this was really the highlight for Temple as well, being able to put together beam performances. They had really solid performances, lots of originality in those routines. I was really impressed with how they did on beam.
So we will step aside. Obviously, the teams will get a chance to cool down, and we'll have the awards ceremonies and the final official team scores. We'll be back in about 10 to 15 minutes. You're watching Carolina Gymnastics here on ACC Network Extra.
this evening's gymnastics meet to explore the information available in the concourse area provided by the outstanding organizations that serve our diverse community.
With that 9.825 from both Madison Nettles and
Let's give a warm
Caitlin
round of applause for
Hedlund.
our Chancellor handing out the awards
And
tonight. Chancellor
Kaja
Carol
Hislop
Hall.
all securing a 9.825 as they are presented, and congratulations by Carolina's Chancellor Carol
Your vault
Foltz.
champions.
And Carolina had a really good vault rotation. All three of those athletes really powerful, capable of breaking into the 9.9s if they can hone in on that stick.
Yes, they
And now for
secured
the
that
bars.
excellent score of
In a three-way
49
tie
on the
for third
vault.
place with a score of 9.750 from the University of North Carolina, Caitlin Hedlund.
And
From
Caitlin
Temple,
Hedlund
Tori Edwards. And from Temple, Henry
continuing
Roan.
her strong performance on the uneven bars with a score of 9.75, and it was actually
In second place
Monica
with a score of
Servideo
9.775 from the University of North Carolina, Morgan Lane.
And so I think there was,
Jalen Everett.
yes, so that was a three-way tie
Yeah.
for third there.
And in first
Morgan
place with a
Lane
score of 9.8
in
from the
second.
University of North Carolina, Grace Donahue.
And it was Grace Donahue who leads the way with that 9.8 on the uneven bars. And a first place for the sophomore Donahue.
And it
Being
was,
the highlight on the
Here are
uneven
your
bars for the Tar
champions.
Heels.
and again, she's working a new routine. Just a few little things to clean up on that. Also, you know, through Temple's rotation had really solid. There's a slew of 9.725s
And now
after
for
that.
balance
So
beam. In a
it
tie for
was,
second
they
place
had a
with
really
score
strong
of
rotation on
9.85
bars as
from
well.
the University of North Carolina, Morgan
Now
Lane
we
and
head
Kaja
to
Hislop.
the balance beam, where, as we said, the back end of Carolina's rotation, Morgan Lane and Kaja Hislop securing scores of
And in first place with a
9.85
score of 9.9 from the
and
University
a
of North
personal
Carolina,
best
Alexis
leading the
Allen.
way with that 9.9 Alexis Allen.
And, you know, it's great to see those performances from Kaja and Morgan, but really impressed
These are your
with
balance beam
Alexis'
champions.
performance on beam. She struggled a little bit with consistency in the past, and good to see her come out and hit that beam routine.
So there you see the top five from the performers
And our top three
on
finishers on
beam.
floor exercise. Tied for second with a score of 9.825 from the University of North Carolina, Madison Nettles, and from Temple, Tori Edwards.
And Tori Edwards, one of those really powerful athletes from Temple that we talked about, she had a really good day for them. And Madison
And in first
also,
place with a score of 9.9
she's so
from the
solid
University of North
on
Carolina,
floor
Michaela
exercise throughout her
Robinson.
career at Carolina.
But the highlight was Michaela Robinson setting a personal best of her own with a 9.9.
These are
And you
your
know, sometimes
champions
she
on floor
struggles to control her
exercise.
power on that on-floor exercise. No problems tonight. Good to see her honing on those landings.
So there you see
And now the team standings. In second place with a team score of
No gymnast
194.375, the
competed
Temple Owls.
in the all-around. So we
And in
head
first
to the
place with
final
a team score of
scores as Temple
195.3,
finished with
the
a score
University of North
of
Carolina Tar.
194.275. And Carolina finishing strong on floor
We thank
exercise
everyone in their
score of
attendance at tonight's meet and for the support shown to the gymnasts from both
195.3.
teams.
And you know, we talked at the top of the broadcast, this is not just about records. This is about getting good scores to count towards a regional qualifying score. Both teams improved on what they've averaged before. Temple is contributing a 194.375, not quite that mark they had in the at the top of the season, but a huge improvement over last week, and that's going to move them up in the rankings. And also UNC 195.3, we've been talking about that 195 mark. They hit that. Temple currently ranked 44th, UNC currently ranked 31st. I think we'll probably see those rankings go up next week.
Yes, the North Carolina Tar Heels doing very well after their performance last week against NC State. Moving up from their performance efforts against the Wolfpack, getting a score of 195.3, nearly a full point from what they did against the Wolfpack. And after 2 home meets, the Tar Heels will be on the road, traveling up to Maryland to take on Towson, and then a couple weeks later against New Hampshire in a critical EAGL meet. For you Carolina Gymnastics fans, the Tar Heels will be back in the North Carolina area on February 17th at Reynolds Coliseum, where they will take on NC State, Michigan, and Brown in a quad meet, but they will also be back here on the 19th of February, taking on Brown in a dual meet as well. So for our entire crew here, and for my broadcast partner Christina Chauvenet, I'm Brian Ware, saying thanks again for watching this presentation of Carolina Gymnastics here on ACC Network Extra. To watch this broadcast and all others on our platform of ESPN networks, go to watchespn.com or download the Watch ESPN app. An excellent score for the North Carolina Tar Heels, a 195.3 as they defeat the Temple Owls here in Carmichael. Good night from Chapel Hill.